Rob me, and I'll hunt you down with dogs.
You don't have dogs!
I'll get some.
Where?
Oh!
What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another trailer reaction. If you saw the title and thumbnail, you know we're talking about Game of Thrones' newest spin-off show like House of the Dragon, but this one is going to be set 100 years after House of the Dragon and 100 years before Game of Thrones. And this A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms will be releasing in January, and you can see from the other posters the vibe is quite similar with the sword, but this is not going to be like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon because there's no dragons in this show, which might turn people off of it immediately. But if there's people that are looking for more of like the early Game of Thrones action of Game of Thrones, then this might be right up your alley. And they're like promotional cards lines that they had. Game of Thrones was you win or you die. You either win the Game of Thrones or you die. House of the Dragon's promotional line was fire will reign. And then A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is subverting us a little bit, where Game of Thrones also was famous for winter is coming. This promotional line says spring is coming, which threw me for a little bit. So I was like, so this is going to be set entirely during the spring and summer. No winter, no White Walkers, no dragons, none of that. Just some strict knight and squire in that type of action going on. And I believe this entire show will be set over like a tournament, and we're going to be pretty much seeing how our main character Duncan the Tall becomes Knight Sir Duncan the Tall, and how he becomes, you know, the legendary knight that we know of from Game of Thrones when Prince Joffrey or King Joffrey or whatever is flipping through the book of knights, and Sir Duncan the Tall, we know, had 4 pages of stuff that he did that was famous from him being a knight, and he's like, you know, wow, see, he was some guy. And Jaime Lannister was like, yeah, so they say. So this show, I think we're going to be seeing how Sir Duncan the Tall got his name and what made him so famous, and maybe see some of his accolades. And just from the little bits we've seen in this trailer, I'm fascinated to know more about this guy. But why don't we jump right into this trailer and start breaking it down?
I was squire to Sir Ireland of Pennytree since I was a boy. He charged me to be a good knight, to defend the weak and the innocent, and I swore that I would.
Are you Baelor Targaryen?
No.
Then would you move the fuck out of the way?
Yeah, sorry.
A HBO original series, and that guy at the end there, are you Baelor Targaryen? So there is going to be a Targaryen, Baelor Targaryen, in the show, which I think Baelor was awfully aggressive, wasn't he? Or was that Maegor I'm thinking of, and that would be before House of the Dragon. I think I do also want to see like an Aegon's conquest and go back before House of the Dragon. But it's interesting that we're heading back towards the Game of Thrones era a little bit, and it's going to be set after everything that's happening in House of the Dragon, which season 3 of that is still going to be coming next summer. So 2 different HBO series coming out next year in 2026, but our boy Sir Duncan the Tall we see here, and he's like, I swore that I would be a good knight and defend the weak and the innocent, and I swore that I would. You know, so he is a knight, a tale 100 years before Game of Thrones, and he was a squire to Sir Ireland of Pennytree. So he was a squire and then became a knight through this guy, or he was a squire for a knight, and he looks like he's burying him in the rain, which is awfully sad. But on to the next portion of this trailer.
What's your name?
Sir Duncan the Tall.
Never heard of him.
Do you know every knight in the Seven Kingdoms then?
The good ones. If you could bring me to Ashford, I could squire for you, sir.
Rob me, and I'll hunt you down with dogs.
You don't have dogs!
I'll get some.
Where?
Oh!
That was a good line. Based on the acclaimed novellas by George R.R. Martin. And of course, we are meeting our 2 leads in the show, which would be Sir Duncan the Tall, and I believe this is some Targaryen, but he's going to be a squire for Sir Duncan the Tall called Egg. and his little egg-shaped head. And I believe the really, really old man on the wall in Game of Thrones, I believe this is his younger brother that he was talking about, or maybe it's him. I don't think so though. I think this is Aegon and he was Aemond Targaryen. The names are very close and very confusing, but it looks like these two are going to be our leads in this show. And he's like, do you know all of the knights from the Seven Kingdoms then? He goes, only the good ones. At the very end there, he's like, if you rob from me, I will hunt you down with dogs. He's like, you don't have dogs. I'll get some. From where? And he goes, who? You know, like fucking let the dogs out, scared the little kid. He's like, ah, God, he's a dog. It's a Duncan the Tall. He's a man. He's a beast. You don't want to mess with him. But on to the next portion of this trailer.
Boy's still gaping. Sleep on my horse.
I'm not a stable boy, my lord.
Not clever enough.
I know I'm just a hedge knight, but sometimes I think there could be more.
Ugh, a little bit of cancer in that cup. I've felt that. I get like that every now and again myself, but just the way his face, like, he's like, I think I should be more than just a hedge knight, as he sees what could be a Targaryen woman sitting there on stage in this like performance, and we see like a dragon on stage as well, and she looks awfully beautiful, and the way that he's looking at her, I'm like, you guys know me, I'm a sucker for a love story, so I am now instantly in. I could care less about the tournament, about Duncan or Egg. I do care about Duncan and this woman falling in love though, and I hope that happens, but it's Game of Thrones, so it probably won't happen, or if it does happen, one or both of them will get murdered pretty quickly afterwards. But, you know, he thinks he should be a little bit more than a hedge knight, and he sees Targaryens flying the Targaryen flag and riding in on horseback, and I believe that could be maybe Baelor Targaryen saying, "See to my horse, stable boy," and he's like, "I'm not a stable boy, my lord," and he's like, "Not clever enough," and he's like, "That's not what I meant, but okay, maybe I will take your horse just out of spite, because I'm not an idiot." But on to the next portion of this trailer.
Why do you treat these royal lapdogs like they're your betters?
They are my betters.
These men have a name. I'm trading. What chance do I have?
I have no chance.
Falling star brings luck to those who see it.
So the luck is ours alone?
So they see a shooting star, and the luck would be theirs, and we see that his little shield there ends up getting a shooting star on it as well, so it's like a tree with a shooting star, so maybe that's Penny Tree, where he's from, and like the guy he was squire for in the shooting star, and that's his like shield, and maybe Egg makes that for him. But we see a guy with kind of scruffy hair and a goatee, and I think he is from The Gentleman. I know him, the show at least, on Netflix, and I only saw one episode, but I believe this character was a bit of a nutbag in that, and I think he's playing some type of Baratheon in this, and like, you know, you can tell from the antlers, but I think he's like the Laughing Knight or something like this. I haven't read the books, so I'm going pretty much blind into this trailer, into the show, so don't spoil it too much for me, but you know, if there's little details like who these characters' names are or where they're from, please drop those down in the comment section below and start engaging in the chat on A Night of the Seven Kingdoms as we come up into January here. It'll be fun to have some people that are interested in this show, and I will be breaking it down on the channel in January. But it looks like Sir Duncan the Tall is a nice man. He treats these royals like he's their lapdog, or royal lapdogs like they're his betters, and he's like, they are my betters. And they're all at this like big tournament, it looks like, and they're all training to fight. So I think this whole thing will take place over a tournament, and I'm guessing Sir Duncan the Tall will win said tournament, and it will be just one of his many accolades. And if this show ends up continuing on, each season will be another accolade that Sir Duncan the Tall achieves, you know what I mean? But on to the next portion of this trailer.
Fight honorably. But sometimes I think I buried my courage alongside the old man.
And in every man there are many men. So be brave. Be just. Be tall.
Oh, so we see that smiling, antlered Baratheon fellow that seems to be his friend and talking to him and giving him advice. And he's like, in every man there are many men. And we see a dragon blowing fire at the shield, probably, you know, putting on some type of play because it's not a real dragon. You can see the people holding up the, like, paper mache dragon. How they're doing the fire effect, I don't know. But this has to be, you know, showing us some type of event that is occurring maybe at the end of House of the Dragon. You know, maybe this is the fall of the last dragon and they're putting it on in like a play. But you can see just a brutal tournament and a battle going on here. And Sir Duncan the Tall walking out, and he's gonna have to go up against the Targaryens and all these other people in this tournament. And he's like, I need to fight honorably, but sometimes I think I buried my courage with the old man that we saw at the beginning of the trailer, friggin' of Pennytree. And we see a Targaryen with his armor putting down the mask, and it looks like, you know, he's got like a fiery head. Some people were like, oh, it looks awful, the concept art was so much better. People are so dumb, man. Like, if you can't logically understand that you can draw anything your imagination can come up with, in reality, your imagination can't make a physical product that somebody needs to wear, right? So there's your imagination, and then there's the reality of what can be made. And I think their armor and whatnot for this tournament looks great. And could it have looked better? Sure. Would it have been functional in being able to be worn on back of horseback, take after take after take? Probably not, you know? So realistic with your wants in people, you know what I mean? Like, don't be such an idiot online that that's the type of dumb takes you're putting on Twitter, because even other haters on Twitter were eating this guy alive. I'm like, listen, you know it's bad if haters are hating on your hate, you know, like, it's terrible. But there is one more section of this trailer, and I just love that that guy goes, you know, like, you know, every man has many men in them, so be brave, be just, be tall, right? So maybe this is how he gets Duncan the Tall, because he seems to be a very large man. But there's one more portion to this trailer just to finish us out. Okay, so A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms coming January 18th to HBO Max to start out next year. I can't wait for this. This is going to be a great show. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like 6 to 8 episodes. I think I heard half hour a piece. Hopefully they come out week after week and not all at once or anything like that. But they're closing out this shot with this sick shot of like a bunch of knights on horseback with like the, what is that called, jousting, with like their javelins and their jousting. But normally, and any time I've ever seen jousting, it's been one guy going this way, one guy going the other way. It's never been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys on horseback all at once with probably another 6 coming at them. Like, that seems insane. Like, in this tournament, it looks like they did most of it practically, and it looks freaking incredible. Like, real guys on horseback, real, you know, people jousting maybe, I don't know. But that shot looked sick at the end, and I thought that was a good way to just end this trailer. And I think this isn't even really a trailer. I think this is just a teaser trailer, even though it's about 2 minutes long, but it's kind of setting up what it's about and what you can be expecting. But I expect probably at least another full trailer or 2 to come out after this in the months ahead, heading into January. But at the current moment, we're a little bit more than a couple months out, and I'm ready. I want to see Sir Duncan the Tall, and Egg hasn't necessarily won me over, but he seems like a sweet little kid. But I want to see Sir Duncan the Tall in this tournament. I want to see him fighting. I want to see him fall in love with that chick. I don't know what's going on with the Targaryens, but I'm fascinated to see more of Game of Thrones universe, and, you know, set in a different time period than Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, so it should have a bit of a different feel to it, and it's not going to feel like House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones in any way, shape, or form. No dragons, you know, so it's just taking us back to that knight on horseback fighting with his sword, squires, you know. It's going to be much more like a Bronn, Jon Snow, you know, like more of that kind of story than Targaryen flying on dragon back type of story, you know what I mean? So I'm interested, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment below or message me on my other social medias if you're interested in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Link for my other social medias down in the description below. But that's it from me, y'all. Thank you guys so much for stopping on by. And if you'd like to support the channel, the best way to do that is liking this video, commenting down in the comment section below, subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting that bell so you don't miss future House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, or Knight of the Kingdoms content. And you'll get the notifications when that comes your way. Once again, thank you guys so much for clicking on this video and sticking around this far. My name's Big Cam, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace!
Rob me, and I'll hunt you down with dogs.
You don't have dogs!
I'll get some.
Where?
Oh!